Not a swallower.
Mm-mm.
That sounded worse than I meant for it to.
I have a very dynamic uvula. Anyway, that's my hormones. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of us watching, reading, and responding to Dave Rubin. Today we have a very special topic that's close to my new boobs. It's trans issues. This episode is trans issues.
Yeah. Not as close to my old boobs, but definitely closer. In essence, in solidarity. What was that? Was that just the third one?
No, that's the first.
I don't like things
one,
that come in odds, so.
The first one is my estrogen.
Right.
This one is my T blockers.
Yeah.
This one's just omeprazole because I have an acidy stomach. This is unrelated to the
Oh, that was unrelated.
This is just related.
This is just related to the cheese.
Yeah.
That's the cheese pill. Okay.
I identify as someone who enjoys red sauce very much, and I don't want to feel like shit all day.
Well, yeah. So this is Dave Rubin's 48 tips on how to simp for Jordan Peterson, and this one's trans issues. I'm surprised he doesn't get this right.
You're surprised.
I'm surprised.
Rubin
Yeah.
did something wrong.
Yeah.
Why?
I'll tell you why. It's so easy to be right about this as a libertarian. It's so
True.
easy. It's so
That's
easy.
true.
It's the basketball equivalent to a layup, which is easier than a free throw. It's right there for you. It's literally handed. It's something. This is a free space for a libertarian. Libertarian free space. Right next to that is roads. But I don't know. I don't get it. So I asked you this before, but I guess I want to ask you right now, and then we'll get into this. Do you think Dave Rubin has ever talked to a trans person that's not named Blair White in his life?
No. There would be absolutely no reason to whatsoever. We talked about this. I wouldn't even do it, and we cover Dave Rubin, and it would make sense for me to approach him.
It would make monetary sense. You'd be infested.
It would be stupid. Walk up to Dave Rubin. Hello, I'm Starscream. How are you?
Do you think it's all he hears? Like the Charlie Brown teacher, but to Dave when trans people talk to him about issues, like and just Michael Bay noises.
I kind of wish my life was directed by Michael Bay.
I don't. You'd walk away from so many explosions, and you've walked out of my house before. I feel like I'd be caught in the crossfire. Also, I feel like I'd be forced to meet Will Smith or worse, Martin Lawrence at some point, and I don't.
We can also meet Shia, though. Don't you want to meet Shia?
On a good day, maybe.
Okay, that's fair.
Shia on a good day seems like a good time. Shia on the other side of bipolar does not seem. I feel like you end up somewhere at the end of the day, physically, like a physical location you didn't want to be. Reno, maybe.
If I was in a Michael Bay movie, I'd also be the butt of a joke for being trans. I feel like Michael Bay would definitely go there.
Oh yeah.
Like, ha, ha, ha.
Oh yeah. But Will Smith would do it, and he'd be like, "But I voted for Barack Obama," or something. Like so that takes care of it. He'd say something very liberal about it. I still think you people should be president, like something like that. Anyway.
Okay, so Dave Rubin.
Yeah.
Dave Rubin opens this chapter the worst way you could open a chapter on trans people. It's like
the one joke. It's the one joke.
It's so much worse than the one joke. You know what? I would be less annoyed if he opened the chapter with I identify as an attack helicopter, but he went even stupider with it because he offended my Autobot fan sensibilities.
Jesus Christ.
He starts the chapter by saying, "When I was a boy, I wanted to be a Decepticon named Soundwave. Alas, medical science in the 80s wasn't advanced enough to swap my body for that of a futuristic robot that turned myself into a cassette player. This devastated the 6-year-old me for at least 48 hours.
Wait, why did he want to be fucking the cassette player?
Why Soundwave, Dave? Have some standards.
Have dignity. Like, come on. Soundwave?
Fine. Bumblebee, okay. Optimus Prime, obviously. Fuck, I'll even give you Rodimus Prime.
I was gonna say the movies. Let's do the movies. You're fine. There was a Roman one once. One of the cartoons, they were Romans.
I did not know.
And they were like, "Oh, we're gladiators," and they had a clear advantage over the humans. Not fair. It's the Karate Kid shit all over again. They broke the rules.
Wait, what Karate Kid? What broke the rules?
The head kick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Have you seen Cobra Kai?
I have not, but neither.
Netflix.
Wow, we're gonna. No happiness. Only Dave. No happiness. So then
I got to go on with this quote though because it's very annoying to me. He says this devastated 6-year-old me for at least 48 hours, maybe even a bit longer. But by the time I became an adult, I was happy I wasn't given the option at all. He then goes on to be like, "This is humorous, but how else would I start a chapter about transgender individuals? Because of course." As a transgender, I know our existence is hilarious. Honestly, I wake up every day and I go, I'm in constant pain mentally, but at least people get to laugh at me.
You know what? The best part about trans existence is whenever you talk to a trans person, how funny they find all of it. Everyone has a really good sense of humor about like, oh, I'm wearing my heavy man suit today. It's crushing me morally and ethically every moment of my life.
Okay. So Dave, comparing being trans to wanting to be a transformer as a kid.
Worse, a 48-hour Soundwave fantasy.
Yeah. Do I need to explain why this is not equivalent?
I feel
intuitive. Like Dave, Transformers aren't real. They're fictional characters. And it's not even like you're just, I want to be a Transformer. You want to be a specific other individual, Dave. You're not trans. You're a soul bonder, or whatever those people are called who think that they're like a fictional character. This is not the same thing. And you being a kid and having a fantasy of like being a thing is not the same of years and years of an individual, or even years of a kid, feeling like I'm uncomfortable in my body and the role society lays out for me. Not the same thing at all. Incredibly fucked up to say, Dave.
But
maybe stop.
Calling his upsetty 48 hours like that's his like, oh, that's my dysphoria. That's how it is for kids.
Yeah.
Can you explain it how it does feel? Besides, like in a way that would make a cis be like, ooh, not for me.
Oh God, I think the example you gave is a good one. It's like wearing, and I think we've talked about this before. Maybe me talking about it's where you got that analogy, but I'm sure it's been used by others.
You used it in your coming out video.
Okay.
Heavy coat.
Like wearing an ill-fitting suit all the time, but worse than that because it's like my skin. I don't like. Oh boy, I'm feeling better now that I've been transitioning for quite a while. I own more women's clothes, although I would like to own more. Hopefully, when quarantine's over, now that I'm making more money, I can go do that. But like, especially on the hormones, I've been feeling better. But like, you got to understand that like, if you look back at some of the videos we did years ago, let's say peak awfulness me, where I had the beard. And
I was gonna say, can we talk about the beard specifically? Because people don't realize how bad that was for you.
I don't know what specifically made me decide to do the beard.
You asked me, do I look good? And I said, if that's what you want to have, yes,
sure.
It looks good. And then you asked you asked. I was going to call him Chad. I'm such a Twitch streamer. You asked the fans basically. Do you like this? And then we did Beard Watch, and it became a bit. And you through the bit, you were coping. I was unaware that was how you were coping, but it was
that's not your fault. That's on
well,
me.
no, I know. Well, I'm not blaming myself. I wasn't going like, if only I could have cracked her egg for her. You know what I mean? Like that's not my job. But like, also that would be fucked up. But I just think, like looking back, clearly it was a cope. Like 2020 hindsight, and so it's interesting because I don't think a lot of people actually understand, like the lengths. And even then, the dissonance of I don't want to. You said this. I don't want to be I don't really want to be trans. I just want to be a woman.
Yeah,
like
it's tough because, especially considering how low of opinion society tends to have about trans people, it makes accepting that you would be happier if you made that transition more difficult. And in terms of the beard, oh my God, it's not necessarily a coincidence that the time where I had the beard was also times where I struggled probably the most with my alcoholism.
It was the dark times.
Oh my God. And it's great now. By the way, relating to this, I had my first electrolysis treatment last week. It's very nice. They only got where they can only do a little bit at a time, but they got like right here, which you can see I have a little bit of like stubble right now, which is unfortunate, but like the parts that they did are pretty good. Pretty good.
I played in that one D&D campaign, the one that was a hellscape for quite a long time that you know so much about at this point.
Yes.
There's another player in there who's going through transition, and she just got a recent electrolysis too. And so I've been learning so much about this. It's better than laser. It's less painful, and I guess it really, instead of like, I guess electrolysis, they actually take like a little thing and actually poke the follicle and murder it.
Yeah, it's like a needle attached to a machine, and then they stick the needle in the follicle, and then
That's wild.
They do either electricity or there's a heat treatment, and so it causes a chemical reaction that like kills the follicle. It's pretty cool.
Basically, you're only going to go through one more growth cycle before it's dead, right?
Hopefully. I guess there are like some hairs that only pop up. How do I put this? There are some hairs that pop up during some cycles and some that pop up during other cycles.
Right.
So they're probably going to have to go over the same area multiple times.
Yeah,
hairs.
That's the way it was explained to me. It's like you kind of double dip.
And there's like every treatment, like one follicle, there's a 70% chance it is dead, but there's a 30% chance.
Now look at how many follicles I have, chat. This is not. You think this is an unserious motivation? I just called them Chad again. God damn it.
And this frustrates me too when people. We'll get back to Dave in a second, I swear. But now I'm just ranting about like.
No. This is kind of the point. This is what I want. Context to the conversation that's not provided by Dave whatsoever. The stuff, all the stuff. It's not. You're not a Decepticon. It's a fucking life altering daily grind of like I just I can't put into words because I just see it passively. I don't even live it. I just see it passively through you and other people that I know that are trans, and it's like it's so materially important. It's beyond just it's beyond the activism. It's beyond the words. It's literally maintenance.
So people who delegitimize or question trans individuals, I just want to give you an example of how much shit we go through. Not to mention all the obvious shit of people like being mean to us just for like existing. But like in terms of treatments and stuff, first of all, electrolysis hurts like a fucking bitch. I'm a pretty big like bitch in terms of pain. I can't do it. But literally, they insert a needle into. Think about how many hairs you have on your face if you have facial hair.
Got a few.
There's a needle in every single follicle, and while the needle is in your skin, each treatment is like an hour long. They send a bunch of heat and electricity through it, and it shocks you in the needle hole. Like, think about that. And they got to do it for every hair on your face. It was an hour, and they did like this much at the very ends and right here. I'm gonna be doing this for like 6 months every week for like 6 months, and it costs like $80 a session. Like, guys, we're not doing this for fun. We're doing it because we want to die if we don't. Like, I cannot highlight this more, okay?
Right.
Stop being mean to trans people just because you think we're weird. Like, we're just trying to live our lives, okay?
I don't even think that's weird. I don't know. Like, cis people get that shit all the time. There are cis women that get like that's what it was really marketed towards. Was like, hey lady, you got a little hair that a man doesn't want you to have. Get it zapped out your face. And that's what, and then like now, because people can be a little bit more open at least in this area and like other areas. And even then, it's like not safe necessarily. Just in general, like you make. I'm calling a decision. We both know it's not. Decision's like the wrong word for it. You basically make the decision to let other people know. Yep. Like, that's something you opt into. And people would be like, "Oh, cool, Megatron." You know what I'm saying? Again, it's very different. And this isn't a 48-hour thing. Anyway, so he goes on to talk about the first thing he talks about, unless you want to bring something else in between that, I don't think anything happens, it's child transition.
Yeah.
All right. Child transition is such a fucking... It's a no-brainer once you understand everything that goes into children transitioning.
I want to be clear, too. Conservatives like Dave Rubin are aware at this point that if they straight up shit on trans people, a lot of people will rightfully be like, what is wrong with you? These are just people trying to live their lives. So they pull the same exact tricks that they were trying to do in the 80s and 90s about gay people, and they say, but think of the children. All the children are going to want to be gay or trans.
It's repackaged homophobia. It really is.
It's a proxy for shitting on trans people. They don't actually give a shit about these kids, because if they did, they'd actually listen to them. He cites a study that is cited, and if you had any conversation with any TERFs or any transphobes on the internet, they've probably cited this study. It's the study that says, oh gosh, can I find it? I don't remember the exact percentage it says, but it basically says the majority 8%. Of trans... What? How much?
8% detransition. I know that one.
That's ridiculous, by the way. I don't know what study that is specifically, but the studies I've seen on detransition are less than 1%.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. By the way,
is less than any other like cosmetic surgical procedure, if we're talking, and I think that study was specifically about like surgeries and stuff, but like
that one's about, well, I don't know. I don't know what one he's citing, because it's Dave Rubin and there are no citations. And he doesn't talk about it, but he's talking about again, they're so fucking caught up with this. They're caught up with the peepees and the vaginas. They're caught up with it. And the size of the ding dong is gonna make the size of the vagina, which is
his citation. Okay, let me start back. Okay, so a study that gets referenced in this is the one, and I don't remember the exact name of the study, but there are a couple studies at least in the 80s and 90s, and even maybe the early 2000s, that were about how often do kids who are classified as trans continue to be trans into adulthood. And the study found something between like 60 to 80 or something like that did not become trans in adulthood. They like grew out of it, as Dave Rubin and other people like him say. However, if you actually look at these studies, like a lot of studies that involve trans people prior to literally right now, they're very, very flawed. For instance, a lot of the kids in these studies, I would argue probably most of the kids in these studies, weren't really trans to begin with. Basically, parents would take these kids to the therapist because they were exhibiting non-gender conforming behaviors, like liking female friends more, or even some amount of like cross-dressing.
Were they mistaking a combination of sexuality differences and gender expression differences with being trans?
Basically, the criteria for what it takes to diagnose a child as having gender dysphoria is very different today than it was in the 80s and 90s, as you might imagine. So a lot of these kids were probably just young children or children who were non-conformative in many ways. A lot of them grew up to be gay, as the study showed. But instead of recognizing, oh, our sample size of trans kids weren't actually trans kids, they were just gay kids that we were misdiagnosing in the first place.
They didn't have Twitter, so they didn't know what femboys were.
And also, the same study, weirdly, there was a huge percentage, like 36 of the participants in the study just weren't able to get in contact with them on the follow-up, and they classified all 36 of them as not being trans.
Oh.
Like, you can't do that.
Uh-oh.
You can't just be like,
I'm worried about all 36 of those people now. So, given the... Okay.
So if you find this study, like, talked about anywhere, there's an article written by Florence Ashley, candidate in law of bioethics, and Alexandra Burrill, assistant professor of social work, University of Ottawa, called Why Rapid Onset Gender Dysphoria is Bad Science. It's pretty good. It also talks about another study where basically a bunch of parents on a forum where they're like aghast at their children coming out as trans. They were questioned, and because the parents didn't see any signs, the researchers classified what their kids had as rapid onset gender dysphoria, which, by the way, doesn't exist.
So,
but anyway, there's a bunch of really bad studies about trans issues and trans children in particular, and I'm very like, please do more research on this. And I'm not saying like the general public go Google it. I mean actual like sociology researchers and I want more studies to be done on this and done appropriately, because I'm not saying there are no children who are going to question their gender identity and then say, no, you know what, I am okay with my birth gender. That's great. That's fine. That's part of it. I think all kids should be more aware that, hey, you can be sort of like what makes you happy. And if your birth gender does not, do it for you, you can explore other things, and that's completely fine, even if in the end you decide, no, I was born a boy, and I'm going to stay a boy.
This bakes the noodle of so many people that don't understand this conversation, because, like the concept of just gender discovery, through yourself, they don't understand that it's a thing that you can come back around and be like, nope, confirmed, I am this. Yep. Like, even if I go dabble and be like, you know what, maybe I'm gonna see if femininity fits me a little bit better. I'm gonna fem up for a little bit and see if that makes me happy. I'm not quite there. Maybe I'm just fluid. Maybe it's a fluidity thing. Maybe it's a non-binary thing, and it takes a lot. It takes a lot for a lot of people. And sometimes you're just straight and you're just cis and you're just maybe a little bit masc or femme or something, or maybe you just come back around and be like, you know what? Maybe I was just confused. That's totally fine. Everything's fine. It's 100% okay. Like, trans trending isn't a thing. Yeah. Trans trending dissuades, and I think negatively, people who otherwise would genuinely be like, well, I feel a little bit like this, and I get this question a lot. I'm sure you get it more. If people probe you for questions, this kind of like, well, I kind of feel a little bit like maybe I may be trans, but I don't want to say I am if I'm not. I don't want to just go explore yourself, and definitely genuine question. But right before we jump into what Dave's take is, can you explain just being a child and not understanding, but 2020 hindsight, like sort of this when it first started, when you knew kind of like there was this thing happening where you just didn't feel right, because there's this misunderstanding with, again, transphobe's are just people who, I guess I wouldn't call Dave a full transphobe. He's like the small T transphobes, like small R racists, where he's like, well, I'll sit next to you on the bus, buddy.
Sure. I've known for pretty much my whole life that something was wrong with the way that I felt, but I didn't know exactly what it was. Even when I kind of knew, I was pushing it really, really far back. So, like, oh gosh, even as far back as a kid, I knew I didn't enjoy. And bear in mind, just non-gender conforming stuff does not necessarily mean you're trans. It can, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. That's just what,
No.
I found was right for me. But like as a kid, I was not interested in any of the things that guys tend to be into. I was more interested in like, I never had like Barbie dolls or anything, but I really wanted them to the extent that I had this friend, Kevin, whose house I went over to sometimes. And
Shout out Kevin.
his mom owned a daycare, and I would sneak away and play with the Barbie dolls a little bit. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Uh,
So I used to play with Barbie dolls too, but I was more interested in why the lumps made me happy.
Jesus Christ.
I remember that. I remember cringily being like, "Why is that good?"
Jesus. Then as I got older, I became interested in like wanting to try makeup and stuff like that, which is funny now because I'm so lazy. Even though I have access to all sorts of makeup, I'm too lazy to do it most of the time, which young me is very, very disappointed, but you know. But like literally to the point where I had, and I've talked about this before, I had a cousin, Alyssa, who knew a little bit about this stuff. Oh, and also I skipped this. In kindergarten, we had like, and I went to a Catholic kindergarten, and they had like a dress up area, and I would always dress up in like the pink tutu.
Mm-hmm.
It made me feel good. I don't know.
Yeah.
But also it made people laugh. It's a very formative experience for me, by the way.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that ties into what I do today. But anyway, this cousin Alyssa, she put like makeup on me, and that was nice. After I expressed to her that I wished I could, basically.
When was this?
Oh God, I was probably in late elementary school, early middle school.
Yeah.
It was during the summer. I was spending a lot of time over at her house because my parents were working and I was getting, babysat by her mom. And then just as I got older, beyond that, puberty set in. That was awful. Every day you wake up and it's like a new nightmare scenario has happened. Have you seen The Fly with Jeff Goldblum? And every day he wakes up and like a
But
new
you're
body
not a
part-
hot fly.
body parts are falling off. It's like that, but the opposite. Like body parts are growing and hair is, and it's and the facial hair. Facial hair is a big sticking point for me. It feels disgusting. It's like I have. Oh God!
I think that's a daddy issue as well.
I don't know about that. I think
so?
it's always been pretty gross to me, even before he had a beard. So I don't necessarily think that's the case. But like,
Yeah?
it just
Okay.
literally a couple weeks ago. It was more than a couple weeks ago. It was probably a month or so ago. Before I was doing the electrolysis and stuff. Baha, my girlfriend, and she got some waxing things to try and wax my face to like just see how it worked, right? So he did the upper lip. The wax strips didn't work very well. A lot of the hair was remaining, but it did pull off a lot of hair to the point that like the whole thing was covered in like and just literally seeing all the hairs attached to the thing made me cry. It made me, and which is probably weird because I don't think you've ever seen me cry.
I've
I
seen
do
you
get
cry.
emotional. I just don't do it in front of other people very often. But I like broke down. I cannot handle the idea of all these disgusting like man hairs coming out of my face. I hate it. It's uncomfortable. It distresses me. It's gross. It makes me feel ugly. Which like
and this is interesting because I obviously it's different, but I know that you understand cis women go through this as well. Like I dated a woman and you met her. I mean, she was an Arab woman. She had this same problem. She hated that. Obviously, it wasn't dysphoric, but I don't know. I know there's no way for you to put that into perspective ever. at any point make you feel better about that. But that's, I don't know, just maybe solidarity somewhere down the line. But I remember cool moments, I guess, for you after you came out. My favorite moment so far is when Code Red, my girlfriend, Code Red, yeah,
That's good.
yeah,
Okay.
and you sat and she helped with makeup for like the first time as an adult. I
That
believe.
was nice. I think
There was a
I
glow. There was a glow. I told that story on stream the other day, and people got emotional.
I've thanked Sarah for that before, but I'm going to thank her again.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. We should, once COVID's over, we should do more like girl stuff. And I got to go buy more clothes anyway. Maybe you should go with me to like the Goodwill or something.
I really want to go.
We should honestly, Sarah and I should hang out like more because I don't have any like other platonic female friends.
we should all be hanging out more. I'm worried about giving diseases to Baha, who has important things happening.
That's true. That's definitely
that's
true.
what I worry about. But anyway, that'll fix itself at some point, surely. We'll just get herd immunity. That's how it works. Anyway, so this was all a preface. You know this is gonna be a meaty episode. This is all a preface to Dave Rubin's terrible take on kids transitioning. Number one, most transition for kids is social. Most of it. The big parts are the parents supporting and everybody being supporting, teachers and stuff, and peers, and everybody just being like, hey, you're accepted, whatever you got going on. And there's people that are very, very good at this, especially kids. Once they learn something, they don't have pre-built prejudice. Once they learn something, they're like, okay, and then they do the thing usually, and it's usually pretty fine. There's lots of little kids that are learning about this stuff and are able to come out. Like, you're not usually going to be 4 years old and able to articulate it, but hopefully pre-puberty you're able to get there. And this is the point. He called them very damaging puberty blockers or something. He used a term. He used a fucking dumb term for what puberty blockers are. He did.
Did he?
Okay. He mentioned
puberty blockers are not, how do I put this? On the whole, in terms of any medication that you're going to take versus the potential side effects, puberty blockers are fine. Like, I don't know. Dave Rubin, I really don't think understands this. And it's something that I need to, like, say again and again. Puberty blockers for someone who believes themselves to be trans. I understand that people are not wanting kids to medically transition. I can understand that point, and until there is more research, I completely understand that perspective. So what transphobes or people who aren't on board with understanding trans stuff, their position was kids should be on nothing.
Okay.
I think it'd probably be okay to do some medical transition, but I understand. So the compromise we come to as a society is puberty blockers.
Yeah,
right?
he says this sentence just so we can. Yet we're allowing record numbers of children, some as young as 4 years old, to change their gender through invasive surgery and potent puberty blockers. He called them potent.
So the 4-year-old he's referencing is literally, it's not a surgery. Even though he says as young as 4 years old, surgery, it implies that the 4-year-old he's talking about is a kid who has socially transitioned and their parents had their gender legally changed on their birth certificate. Which, by the way, I don't know if you know this, you can change that back later if the kid changes their mind. That kid hasn't had surgery or anything. Obviously, they're not performing
I don't know about
gender confirmation surgery on a 4-year-old.
Right. This is why he brings up ding dong size in regards to post-transition bottom surgery results. Yeah. They're not taking 4-year-old dicks and turn them into your forever vagina. Like, no. Everyone understands that this is like, it is something that you're going to have to grow into if in fact, and bottom surgery isn't even for everybody, but if it is for you, it's something that obviously you're going to have to wait until things grow. You need material for these things until we can grow this
Even-
kind of shit.
I think there's an alternative form of bottom surgery now that doesn't necessarily use all the penile tissue. How do I?
What tissue does it use? Does it just create a crevasse and then they graft, or what?
I think it does something to your butthole.
It
not
does
kidding.
something to your butthole?
Yeah,
Or
like
it
somehow,
uses pieces of your butthole?
Baha was talking about it the other day. I'm not overly familiar with it. She was talking about it or something. I guess for some people who don't have enough material to like create a neo-vag, basically, they use other material. I don't know if they're taking taint stuff. I have no idea. I'm not a doctor. I'm just going to pay them to create a vagina for me someday.
There you go.
Anyway,
the
point is, with puberty blockers for kids, going through puberty as the wrong gender, if you are transgender, is devastating and irreversible. Like, I will never entirely be the way I want to be because I already went through puberty once a way I did not like. Like, my voice is deeper, and this is something I really do need to work on, but my voice doesn't bother me as much as a lot of other stuff. But, like, the frame of my body, certain other stuff is just, I'm just going to be like this for the rest of my life. And that's sad, and I'm not a fan of that. And that could have been prevented if, this sort of thing and puberty blockers were a regular thing for trans kids, and transness in general was more accepted. So I could have said something when I was younger and not waited until my mid-20s to start transitioning. But, like, you just have no idea how much of a difference it would make for a trans individual to be able to not go through their puberty. And it just blocks it until such a time as society deems that they have enough cognitive ability and forethought to decide for themselves, am I going to medically transition? At which point they take them off the puberty blockers and they put them on either hormones if they're going to transition, or if they decide, you know what, I was wrong, I'm actually okay with my birth gender, then they just take them off the puberty blockers and they go through puberty normally, just later in life. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with puberty blockers any more so than any other potentially life-saving medication that also might have some side effects.
Right.
And bear in mind, this is a life-saving medication. Trans suicide rates are insane. And even if you can't completely understand how uncomfortable and distressing this stuff can be for trans people, understand that it is. Just know that it is, and know based on the suicide rates and what I am telling you as someone who, when I was younger, tried to kill myself multiple times. It is a nightmare. That's the only way I can describe it. And it's so cliche to say, like, oh, it's a nightmare, but, like, that's the only way I can describe it. It's like constant distress.
It's worse because you don't wake up.
Yeah.
You don't wake up from this nightmare. Actually, when you wake up, that's the nightmare. And if you had nightmares while you were sleeping, no rest. Yeah, there's also this I don't even know how to even describe it. I'm going to call it an argument, but it's really just concern trolling of the, well, what if you have an awkward puberty? Because it's a little later. Come on, man. There's the idea that the child in question is like not brought into the conversation is like part of the distance of it. People think like, oh, it's the parents that just do this. You know, they talk to the individual, right? And have multiple conversations. Not parents. Therapists, doctors, etc. Like, did you need mental health care to sign off on your?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So I mean, like, it's not like it wasn't a vetted situation. Like, frankly, at this point, you might have an easier time than someone that wants to get a hysterectomy at your age. Isn't that interesting?
That might be true. And I've heard horror stories about women who go into the doctor and they want like their tubes tied or something at like my age, and they're like, no, you might want to have kids, and the doctor.
Sarah's one of them. Yeah.
Weirdly, these medications, they sterilize me.
Yeah.
They do, which is fine. I don't ever want kids, so it's like a bonus for me. But they were just like, are you sure? And they had me sign a bunch of paperwork, so I can't like sue them in the future if I went crazy and decided I wanted children, which would be disgusting. Future me, if that happens, you disgusting monster.
It's gonna be Mother's Day one day, and you're gonna watch it. Oh, with my 4 kids. Oh.
They had me sign like a big stack of paperwork, and it was fine.
Yeah, well, you can also, of course, although it is expensive at this point, it shouldn't be prohibitively expensive, but trans people do, at some point before bottom surgery is complete, you can get re-sterile or or unsterilized, refertiled. That's the word we can.
It depends. Okay.
Well, Blair White.
They recommend you, if you do want to have children with your own genetic material, they recommend you, before you start the medication, give some samples to like a place that, like a sperm bank.
Blair White's one of these people that did it after hormones, but prior. I don't know if she's even getting bottom surgery, but
sure. I think last time not that it's anyone's business, but she's talked about it, so I'll talk about it. I think she said before she's not, because she doesn't necessarily feel a ton of like genital.
Yeah, that's whatever. I don't
which
really
is
care.
Hilarious coming from Blair White, who's a
true scum.
She is constantly shitting on other trans people because she disagrees with the way they're going about being trans, yet she herself doesn't want bottom surgery, which is fine. But there are a lot of shitbag trans people out there who would then say to her, oh, you're not a real trans person. Blair White is the worst thing to happen to trans people
since Buck Angel. Who they have the same. They're both true.
I was gonna say
they're both true scum trans men, and both of them have the bottom pieces of their birth gender.
I was gonna say Blair White's the worst thing to happen to trans people since the gay panic defense, but
okay, yeah.
Like literally, Blair White is an awful person.
Yeah,
she's the Jesse Lee Peterson of the trans community, and she should be fucking ashamed of herself every single time she puts out a video where she's making fun of other trans people, especially when she makes fun of them specifically for not passing.
Yeah,
like Blair. I get it. You're beautiful. That's wonderful, and I'm happy for you. But why don't you use your platform to uplift other trans people instead of just being like Regina George of the trans community and being like,
right?
You're not as pretty as me, so, and I'm gonna use the T slur. Fuck you, Blair. I hate Blair White so much.
Me too.
I don't think she's made fun of me yet. I'm shocked. I'm honestly shocked.
Well, it'll happen at some point. But
oh yeah.
She's blocked me on Twitter, so whatever. So after that, he talks about some other bullshit. It's about the frontal lobe and all that shit, and how he agrees that the frontal lobe doesn't start till 25, like, or finish being developed till 25, but would never use that argument for anything else. Also, he says that he brings up something. This is tangential to the argument about trans people, but he says that we don't let people under 18 like drink and do drugs and stuff.
In some places, it's actually legal with parental consent.
We should. Can I just throw that out there? We should. I don't mean like having your kids binge drink when they're 15 years old. We need to destigmatize this shit so they don't want to do that kind of stuff and educate people. And some of the lower end drugs. I'm not saying like give kids heroin or anything. I do think that could be developmentally fucked up. But like taking like weed and alcohol specifically off these pedestals and just exposing people to them if they want to try them in a safe place. I have no problem with that.
I don't know enough about the effects of drugs and alcohol on adolescents to have an opinion on this.
Well, again, I'm not saying like let them get drunk or fucking like do huge bong rips or take.
You're saying like
take
do
big
the French
edibles.
Thing of like if they have a little bit of wine.
Yeah, a little wine at dinner kind of thing. Like I don't give a shit. Like just take it off this fucking this dare doesn't work. It's the opposite. Is basically the idea here. But beyond that, I mean, teach your kid how you want to do it. It is with parental stuff. I don't care. Yeah, he says 8% of detransitioners. Do we want to talk about detransition at all again? Because it's near the end of this.
I only have a little bit to say.
Yeah.
The studies I've seen are less than 1%, and of that less than 1%, many of them retransition. A lot of detransition people are people who have been beat down
I was gonna say
by
bullied
trans
usually.
folks
Yeah.
and who aren't maybe happy with the results, because unfortunately, some people who transition don't necessarily feel that they've reached the results they want, so they just decide, fuck it, if I can't have exactly what I want, I'm just going back in the closet. I'm gonna whatever. I'm sure there are some people, just statistically, there are enough people on this planet. I'm sure there are some people who have gone through transition and then somehow realized they were wrong or changed their mind, and that's fine, and that's their business, but they are not representative of a large swath of people who transition. It's just not the case. And whenever people like Dave Rubin bring this up, it's always concern trolling.
Yeah.
It's never about, and it's always funny to me, it's never about the well-being of actual trans people. That can never be the center of the discussion for these people. Like that's the tertiary thing. And the real issue is, oh no, there might be cis people who are accidentally transitioning. Like, that has to be the focus, not, actual trans people and the struggles that we have.
I gotta be honest, most
navigating society.
Again,
it's annoying.
If you're definitely 100% cis, you're not really gonna have a huge struggle with your gender, probably. It's you got probably other stuff that is addressed during that self-discovery period. It wasn't your gender. if you end up being cis, because as a cis person, I can assure you that it's not like I've never experienced dysphoria. I might feel like dysmorphia or something, like you might be confusing that, like just dissatisfaction with your physical appearance in general that's disconnected from your gender. But I can assure you it's not the same if you are truly cis. You're not going to feel this dysphoric feeling that trans people tend to describe. So the next thing on the list, the last thing on the list, unless you wanted to bring another topic up, which is pretty much nothing, is the part where Dave Rubin gets it the wrongest, in my opinion. Wronger than the child transition, because I believe he's ignorant enough to truly care about that. This is the worst part. This is the part.
Misgendering part.
This is the part where he says, "Free speech, baby, free speech." We calling someone their again. He says preferred pronouns is that's compelled speech. That is compelled.
Okay. For me, this depends entirely on the context. If you're just like on the subway,
Yep.
or if you're on the internet and there's some transphobic a-hole who just wants to like misgender you.
A-hole?
A-hole. What did
That was
I
weird.
said
It's just weird that you said a-hole. It was weird that you censored that.
I'm trying to censor myself more so videos get monetized, although I've said the F word like 3 or 4 times this video, so that's out, but so I've been trying to, Anyway, obviously out in public, you can't really, if someone's just addressing you once or twice, there's not anything you can do. But if someone's like harassing you,
Yeah.
that's a different thing altogether. Like if someone's walking up to you and they're like let's say they walk up to me and they go, "Hello, sir, how are you?" And not just like a mistake. I understand people make mistakes. It doesn't bother me when people misgender me as a mistake. I understand people, fuck up. I understand I'm not like passing. I get it. That's fine. But if I correct you and you continually try to have a conversation...
At this point, if I didn't know you, I don't think I would misgender you.
Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I was at a place the other day, and I got accidentally gendered correctly. I wasn't even in like women's clothes, but I think my hair, and I was wearing a mask.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like
I have boobs now.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think you have enough.
I'm not gonna straight up show on back up and show on camera, but I'm sure somewhere in this video I'm backed up a bit. Like it's hard to see, but I got some boobies now. It's pretty great. I'm pretty happy about it. Like,
I'm very happy for it. Yeah, I think at this point, like it's.
But anyway, this more comes up in times like governmental employees, right? Like if you are at a public university and you are a professor and one of your students is trans, you should not be able to refuse to call them by their actual name. And by actual name, I mean the name that they go by not the one their parents necessarily gave them,
Yeah.
and the pronouns that they use. Because
Mhm.
you're basically in a situation where, for one thing, you're sort of an employee of them in the first place, right? You're working for a public university, they're students. It's not cool. They're trying to get their education or whatever, and you're just being a dick. They don't really have an option necessarily. You might be teaching a class they need for their degree. You should suck it up as a governmental employee and say, okay, this person is a trans woman, even if you disagree. And let me be clear here. If you're a transphobe, I think you're an a-hole, but like,
He did it again.
you're gonna do what you're gonna do. If that's who you are and you refuse to accept other people who are different than you, that's your business. But you need to keep it to yourself.
Your
You
gosh
just do.
darn
At least
poopy face.
in these contexts, you need to keep it to yourself.
Yeah.
For the same reason that if you were like a racist and you were a college professor, you can't go around calling like the black students boy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just it's
Yeah,
like,
you can't. You can't do it.
You can't do it. You can have your own little shitty thoughts in your head, but when you're addressing other people in this context, you need to be respectful to them, and they should be respectful to you as well.
Yep.
That's reasonable. That's the social contract. So if you're a professor and you refuse to gender your students correctly, I'm not going to feel bad if you get fired or whatever.
Yeah.
That's not a free speech issue. That's a you not doing your job and harassing a student issue. And yes, Dave and other people, continually choosing in a situation where someone cannot exit the situation, like in a classroom setting, misgendering them and naming them wrong, that is harassment. It doesn't really, you don't get to say as a harasser, well, what I'm doing is not harassment. You don't get to decide that. That's not for you to decide.
Right. Also,
you're the person harassing someone. The person being harassed decides that.
in the workplace, I'd apply this as well.
Sure.
Shit, I'd apply it on the street depending on how it is. Like, again, harassment is on the books, Dave, and maybe you disagree with a little thing called the Constitution. But
the difference to me between, like, someone has the right, theoretically, on the street to call you, like, a racial slur. They don't have the right, however, to follow you around and continually try and berate you with it.
Right. So
here.
I mean, just because Dave doesn't find you're a man or your name's Rebecca or something, I don't know, doesn't find it to be harassment, doesn't mean it isn't harassment. It just feels like Dave wouldn't press charges. Okay, cool. But under the law, it's fucking harassment. You don't get to choose what it is. Like, there's a reason the First Amendment has a cap to it. Like, there are different things you can't do. He even mentioned fire, like in the free speech section, fire in the theater. This is worse than fire in the theater, right? He's not.
I don't even know if it depends. It depends on the context. Again,
harassment.
If someone is just calling you.
No. I mean harassment. Like, because that's just like a false alarm. It doesn't really hurt anybody. Some people are gonna laugh after. No one laughs after being harassed. No one likes being harassed. No one thinks that's a funny jape. That's not a thing. And it doesn't even have to be to misgendering. Just general harassment. Just following somebody around and going, hey, fuck you, hey, fuck you, hey, fuck you. I'm gonna tell everybody you're a big butthole. Like, over time, any of those things, especially calling someone the N-word is a great way. Calling someone a homophobic slur or a transphobic slur. These are the big ones. These are bigger ones. And I don't know why free speech advocates are opposed to this kind of thing. It doesn't make any sense. This is literally free speech at work. There is social currency. Some words cost more money in social currency. Sometimes, and almost all the time, you can't afford to say some words. Just, it's not in your budget. It's not in your social budget. Okay? You know who has a social budget to say the F slur? Very few people, and most people, and this used to be like, the thing used to be, well, what, the black people call them each other N-words, why can't I call you an N-word? And then similar thing happened with gay people, with the F slur and stuff. Not a lot of people like hearing the F slur, even if you're gay. Not a lot of people like it. Like, I have a buddy do podcast on Sunday with. He is a black gentleman, and he uses the N-word a lot. We actually have a joke about it. He even calls his dog the N-word from time to time. But it's not it's not in the same way Dave Rubin's gonna use the N-word. Let's just say that. Mm-hmm. And so there's different context, man. Like, you can't just be like, oh, it's fine to be transphobic. It's not. It's not fine. I'm not saying put transphobes in. You can say whatever you want on your YouTube channel, for instance. You could say T-slurs and I hate the trans. I don't give a shit. That's not what we're talking about. Free speech, yes, of course. There's free speech. If you say kill all the transes, yeah, you agree. You agree that that's obviously not a thing we can do. However, if that video is kind of pointed at somebody and it constantly does this and it sends people that way, we're getting into some waters here. So again, even Dave Rubin, who I say even Dave Rubin, he has no fucking dignity. He's not a bastion of fucking free speech. Who am I kidding? Who am I fucking? Even Dave Rubin, the last warrior of free speech. No. Dave Rubin would be very quick to litigate if someone was like writing the F slur on his property, or like driving by and being like, Dave Rubin is an F slur. Like he would eventually be like, this is fucking harassment. And I agree with you, Dave.
Did you see Cancel Con?
I saw a cartoon from Cancel Con.
Oh, was it the beginning one where it's like Antifa Force or whatever?
Yeah, it was really sad. It was really, really, real sad.
Oh my God. Dave Rubin and Dennis Prager and Adam Carolla and Ben Shapiro on the same stage, and it was the most embarrassing.
It's like when Richard Dawkins, Sam Harris, Daniel Dennett, and Christopher Hitchens were on stage. Remember that? The Four Horsemen of Atheism?
Jesus Christ. Adam Carolla made a very racist joke. I don't remember what it was, but it was racist enough that it made Dave Rubin and Ben Shapiro and the other guy, PragerU, it made them uncomfortable. Wow. Because he said the quiet part out loud. Let me put it this way. I don't think they were genuinely offended. I think
they were
caught. Rolling, yeah, basically. They were like, uh-oh.
Anyway. So, is there any... Let's closing remarks, please. What do you got?
Sure. I understand that a lot of people don't understand trans issues and trans people because it's something that's just become at the forefront of our social discussions in the last 5 years or so. I understand it's complicated, and even as a trans person, I cannot claim I know everything about trans issues because everyone's like experience is different, and we don't have consensuses on a lot of the things in regard to like the trans experience and like the best way to go about doing certain things, or exactly at what age do like kids have the right to decide what to do with their body, not just with puberty blockers, but with like actual hormones and transitioning. These are things that there needs to be more studies on. I agree. But that doesn't mean that in the interim, you get to poop all over trans people. Like, it's just not something you should do. And even if you like, how do I put this? Even if you don't understand trans people, being mean and mocking trans people, especially based on things like their looks and stuff, it's very annoying. And here, I'll just give personal experience. Like, I have my own YouTube channel now and Twitch channel, so I do a lot of solo content. And unsurprisingly, often some insightful commenter will come and say something to the effect of, "You look like a man," or like, "Nice wig," which is actually kind of a compliment that they think that my natural hair is a wig. But, you know, like, guys, I know how I look. I know that in many ways I don't reach like the bar of what many would consider the bar for femininity, which, by the way, is an effed up thing in the first place that puts undue constraints on women in the first place. But at the end of the day, I know these things. It's why I'm trans. Like, how do I put this?
I am addressing the issue you are upsetty about.
Yeah, basically, like I'm on hormones. Like if I could snap my fingers and look exactly how I want to look, I would do it.
It's
Believe
like
me.
looking at a fat guy on a treadmill and going, "Ha, fatty." It's like,
Right.
he's doing the thing!
Like, and I think this is a problem. I watch a lot of incel MGTOW people who seem to have a problem, and this is with cis women typically that they have a problem with.
Ooh, I have
think the same issue-
a new rivalry with an incel. I'm very excited to
fun.
to milk that.
But like sometimes they'll criticize like a woman's looks, and then they'll be like,
Yeah.
"Well, that's not what I find attractive," and it's like, I don't know how to break this to you guys, and it's usually white cis men, not always, but it's in my experience usually white cis straight men. I don't know how to break this to you. My existence is not an attempt to court you. My existence is not an attempt to please you. I'm just trying to live my life in a way that makes me happy. And I'm not bothering you, so maybe leave me alone if you have nothing but rude things to say. I'm not telling you you can't think those rude things. This is not a thought crime place. But why take the time to send these thoughts to me and people like me? It's not helpful. Right?
Yeah.
It just seems like you're compensating for something, and that's also a cliche, but like, why go out of your way to try and harm someone who's done nothing to you?
Yeah, I think it comes down to I mean, do you want to live in a world where people are just fucky to each other for some reason? Like, why? What's that for? I even reached out to Dave recently. I'm gonna save him. I'm gonna save Dave. He's just sad. He's just a sad man. This is the kind of stuff that happens. A lot of these people are just sad. A lot of these people are just upset and they're confused and they don't have like good brains necessarily, and maybe they're going through some shit and they just take it out on other people, and it's like, hey man, come here. Come hang out on the cool side where you can be whoever you want, except a dick. You can even be a little bit of a dick. You can be like a friendly japes, we have rapport dick. You can't be just a dick. Yeah. Right? You can be everything else, though. And everything else is a lot better than being a dick, I can assure you. So,
you know what surprised me in this chapter? I just realized he didn't mention bathrooms once.
No, he did. He did. No, he did mention bathrooms. He said, which bathrooms did Decepticons go to?
Oh, yeah, as a joke. But he didn't actually address it, like, substantially.
Do you want to bring up bathrooms real quick? Because I don't give a shit where you shit.
Oh,
just shit wherever you want.
Right. First of all, I hate public bathrooms in the first place.
Most people hate public bathrooms.
To the point where I did not use them. I'd hold it till I got home. Unless it was like a literal emergency. But
what if you see me in there and you're like, God damn, he's juicy.
Oh God! Ooh, yeah. I don't know how to break this to people who are trans.
Wait, you don't want to fuck in the bathroom?
No, I don't even want to pee or poop in the bathroom. I don't want to exist in the bathroom.
But I just took a big dumper. You don't find me super attractive, and you can't contain your urges?
No, I'm good.
There's a baby changing station nearby. It doesn't turn you on?
No.
Oh, there's an old stain underneath the hand dryer that won't go away no matter how much you put on it.
I know what public bathrooms look like. Anyway.
Anyone could walk in at any point with their groceries.
Don't bring your groceries into the bathroom. Set them outside. Anyway, trans people have been using the bathrooms that make them feel comfortable for literally decades. This is not a new thing. This is a wedge issue that has been manufactured by people on the right to try and scaremonger about trans individuals. Similar things happened in the 90s where they were like, lesbians are going into women's rooms and they're going to assault women. And that didn't happen. And the trans thing isn't happening. In fact, like, if a trans woman let's say there was a law that said you must use the bathroom of your birth gender, you're gonna get trans women hurt.
Yeah,
you are. You're probably gonna get trans men hurt too, because a trans man walking into a woman's room is gonna freak people out. They're gonna get pepper sprayed or something. A trans woman going into a men's room is opening herself up to certain types of men who might want to beat them up. Because
cis, non-gender conforming people get fucked up too now. Yeah. I guess you would say in the old parlance, butch people
Cis people, cis people are being targeted by this.
Yeah.
More cis people have been harmed in bathrooms due to paranoid transphobes
You can't
than there have ever been cis people harmed by trans people in a restroom. I don't know of even one situation that made the news or anything where a single trans person ever assaulted anyone in a bathroom. It's a manufactured.
I can't recall it. Yeah. So yeah. Look, you're not sexy when you shit. That's pretty much the whole thing. And so
Here's my proposal though for bathrooms. Okay, if I might, I will solve this issue for everyone for all time, and it'll make it so I don't hate the bathrooms anymore. Back when I was in elementary school, I went to elementary school at a church. It was a Baptist church, and their bathroom. Oh my God! Not on the school side, but on the church side, right next to like the pastor's office, there was a bathroom that was like a public bathroom. But you walked in, and every stall was its own room, like literally floor to ceiling. There were no gaps. It was like a room with a lock. And there were like 4 of them in the bathroom, and each one was like an individual room, okay?
Oh, man.
This needs to become the standard for every bathroom in the United States. No more of this, people can peep through the crack and see me pee or poop or whatever. Nope.
I don't want to smell it either. That helps. That helps the scent.
Yes. So let's do that. And then we don't even necessarily need like gendered bathrooms at that point. Everyone just has an individual stall they go into.
Can we also put a poop counter on there? Like a little like we have the technology. Like if you pooped, just press a button and be like, "Hey, give it 10." You know what I mean? And it has a little counter on the front like poop timer. And the air goes on in the little room or something, like, you know what I mean? That little courtesy. And then you can make a call. You're like, is it urgent enough or am I waiting? Then it's on you. It's not on me. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. All right. So, yeah, I agree.
And bidets for all public bathrooms. If you haven't used a bidet, it's fantastic.
Or normalize colostomy bags, and we'll all just get hooked up, and I'll never have to wipe my ass again.
Wow. I've never thought about that. People with colostomy bags, their asses must be pristine.
Dude, that is the way to be. Okay?
You could eat off that ass.
You could eat out of that ass. You eat soup out of it. It's a small spoon. Anyway, so... You should have just said asshole the whole time.
There are times that I look back on early TBR and I'm like, man, I'm glad we aren't embarrassing like that anymore. And then we have moments like this and I go, nah, nothing's changed. Nothing's
really changed except we don't punch... I don't feel like we punched down on purpose. I feel like
we're not as chuddy. How about that? There we go.
I don't know about chuddy. I think we're just edgy. But yes, I agree. I agree.
Fine line.
I agree. I think chuddy is with intention.
Not necessarily. I don't know if Jeremy thinks he's intentionally being chuddy. I just think he is.
Maybe you're right. I don't know. Either way, subscribe to this channel for less chuddy us.
You can donate to our Patreon. Link in the description. It helps support.
There's a cat at my knees.
It supports this channel, and I guess in a tangential way, it supports our other endeavors too.
We have other endeavors, which are Twitch. Twitch.tv/ActualJake, Twitch.tv/Hannah Reloaded. We do lots of content over there. It's very good times. You will enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with anything we do over there. It's all happy all the time.
We also have YouTubes that mirror some of that content if you want to like look at backlogs. Is your YouTube just youtube.com/ActualJake?
It is.
Okay. I just got my custom domain, so mine's youtube.com/Hannah Reloaded.
There you go.
It's very simple. Links are all in the description. I changed the stuff so it automatically shows up in the description.
Oh, what a queen. And also, if you want to catch any of the other stuff that we have that goes on in our minds at 3 a.m. maybe, check out our Twitters. I argued with Sargon. He thought that the Constitution wasn't racist, and then I mentioned in the first article of the Constitution,
Three-Fifths Compromise.
The Three-Fifths Compromise is a thing, and he's like, "Yeah, but they amended it." I'm like, "Okay, so we're talking about different things." So it could still be racist. We could go.
Sargon have a Twitter. Didn't he get banned multiple times?
Oh, he LARPs as Robin Hood now and doesn't understand that that is a socialist man. So,
Is that not van evasion? If he's, but he's not. Is he even pretending? Really, he's just espousing the same points.
Yeah, everyone knows it's him. Anyway, it's Greenwood Outlaw. If anyone wants to go hang out with Sargon, yeah, he thinks he's fucking Robin Hood. It's really sad. He also has a really big hard on for Shoe on Head, which is a friend of the show.
I saw.
Hi, Shoe.
That's very strange.
Yeah,
That's
she's very nice though.
strange.
She's been on my Twitch a couple times. We hang out every once in a while.
Sure.
She's a nice person. She's been doing.
Speaking
Speaking
of-
of ex chuds, she's been doing a lot of good work recently.
Speaking of streams, you should come on my stream soon. You can come on my stream.
Collaborate with you? Unlikely.
It's just like I've been doing it for 6 months and it's fun. And
Yeah,
I'm
we'll do
surprised
something.
we haven't.
Yeah,
We should.
We'll do it.
Would you rather come to a Chud Watch, or do you like to join me on Tinfoil Tuesday?
There's nothing. So I already know what I want to do. I kind of want us to be in the same room though. So
Okay, we can do that.
So I have a very good idea, and then we can carry over in the following week. I have an idea for deep lore. I have an idea for the tinfoil and the corn to mingle. It'll be a good thing. So this has been. Do you know we've been doing this for over an hour. This is over an hour because this is the big one. What's the next chapter in Dave Rubin's book? Because this was one that I didn't want to read. He writes such short chapters. He doesn't have much of an attention span. I want him to be. I want him to be right about something, somewhere down the line.
The next chapter is economics. I gotta get my business glasses on.
Oh,
We're gonna do business.
Oh well, I'll get my Wall Street glasses on. You ready? You ready for this? I can check this out. I'd be like, give me those stonks. Give me your stunk prices right now. These are also prescriptions, so that's nice. I can still see what I'm doing. So
They look good.
Thank
Those
you.
are nice glasses.
I know, right? So if well, I don't have a hat right now. All right. So if you want stonk prices to go better, higher, come hang out with us next time. So this is the end of that. I'm Jake.
I'm Hannah.
And we
Captain Hannah.
Captain Hannah of the SS
Oh, am I supposed to come up with something?
Hot Pocket. All right.